Hello and welcome. This presentation was prepared on the 10th anniversary of our association's journey in promoting landscape resilience in a homeowners association. Outside of communities that are originally designed around sustainability like Milagro Co-Housing or Savano, this is kind of unique for a common HOA to take on. So today I'll share not only the highlights and successes, but also some of the ongoing challenges as we continue to grow and learn. Under our new contract, one of the practices that has changed includes no longer using blowers on bare soil to clear ground of small organic debris. This is common practice that leaves bare ground exposed to baking in the sun, exposes tree roots to sunburn, and removes nutrients that trees rely on for healthy growth, thus the exact opposite of climate change resiliency. Instead, we ask the material less than 6 inches in length be left on the ground to encourage an organic moisture barrier for water conservation and soil health. To further improve soil health, we require Santa Rita to use a precision approach to herbicide placement in common areas. Herbicide is allowed but restricted to common area gravel strips in front of people's homes that may host prolific growth during the summer monsoon. Herbicides are never allowed in natural areas hosting desert natives. In addition, we give homeowners the option to opt out of having herbicides applied in front of their homes with the understanding that weeds must be pulled by hand. This approach has yielded beautiful seasonal wildflower blooms during wet years. We may see those blooms peak, typically around April, and then die back in May. As wildflowers die back, we inform the community in e-blasts and newsletters that this is normal and not due to negligence. Eventually, volunteers will circle back and harvest seeds for spreading to bare areas at no cost to the association. Santa Rita has followed our guidance and halted pruning in our common areas outside of flagged items posting safety hazards. So what's all this meant for the landscape? In regards to tree pruning, our common area trees are now professionally maintained by Angelo Romeo Tree Service. These are examples of the careful approach to pruning in the neighborhood that is resulting from the same, rather than witnessing thinning cuts to just get a problem branch out of the way. We've been using Angelo for the last 2 years since his proposals carefully inventory each tree or area that will be maintained, providing us a price for each line item which we can revisit and amend individually. We also appreciate his company sharing training materials and hosting community walkthroughs that give residents an opportunity to learn from a trained professional rather than a passionate resident such as myself. Over the next 2 years, this approach gave our trees an opportunity to restore inner canopy growth with all the ancillary benefits that come from the same. As we've learned from Angelo, these include increased shade in our common area paths, protection of tree trunks from sunburn, a physiological response to realize thicker and stronger diameter branches, vibration dampening in high winds, and increased photosynthesis to support a stronger root system, which in turn contributes to scaffolding. Having said that, it takes time to realize these benefits in the community. In addition, the results are varied depending on the tree or shrub. To demonstrate this response, I'll compare photos of our landscape collected during the late monsoon in 2022 to more recent photos collected in March of 2025. Keep in mind that the photos collected in March were taken before plants leafed out, so any improvement you see will likely be compounded in the summer. Thanks to these modified landscape practices, we're beginning to witness additional benefits on the landscape. Areas that were formerly subject to blowers are now allowed to accumulate organic debris, which not only adds color to the landscape, but is critical to tree health and water conservation. That organic material in turn supports insects, which in turn supports a variety of lizards, and provides materials for verdants to build nests in restored canopies. More flowers in restored spring canopies means there's more food for bees. Insects and added shade provide habitat for quail. Quail also support a healthy population of bobcats that frequent our common areas and result in welcome sightings by neighbors and visitors. Inner canopies are now shading sunburned trunks and improving overall shade in the community. Since our common areas are spared from herbicide treatments, desert natives support opportunities for making thoughtful gifts for neighbors and friends rather than purchasing cheap goods on Amazon. And because we no longer prune our milkweeds and other flowering plants year-round, these plants now have an opportunity to support tarantula hawks and other interesting insects during the monsoon. Lion-tailed trees that were lost in prior storms are recovering on their own by simply being left alone. And the overall increase in moisture associated with our water harvesting activities creates habitat for desert toads that visit during the monsoon. We do occasionally see snakes, but they typically keep off our paths since we're diligent about removing adjacent pack rat middens. When we do see them, they're typically basking on warm streets or stick to our open areas away from dogs and people, for which they don't particularly want to interact with. And our walking paths are now more welcoming to neighbors and visitors. I personally believe the, quote, natural but neat aesthetic we promote directly correlates to property values. Having said that, the correlation is qualitative at best and difficult to measure. Given natural differing sensitivities, some in our community understandably may not think it really makes much of a difference or frankly may not care. I totally respect this point of view, but at the same time, one area we can capture the impact is in dollars and cents. And in this regards, no one likes to see their hard-earned dollars mismanaged. So if we can highlight the benefits in terms of the impact on people's wallets, I think we can help in sustaining this approach moving forward. To summarize, pivoting to a quality versus quantity approach to landscape management has yielded close to $17,000 in savings over the course of 2 years. If you add water savings over the last 8 years, now we're seeing close to $40,000 in savings. That's real money that helps us keep association dues in check during an inflationary period of time in our history. Needless to say, this has all been possible thanks to us having a board of directors and a community that supports our approach. In particular, our board president, Ms. Sandra Drain, has worked tirelessly to support community improvements and activities like this volunteer tree planting event coordinated with Tucson Clean and Beautiful in December of 2023. Thanks to Sandra's leadership, we replaced 15 sunburned and diseased trees with 20 new drought-tolerant desert natives at minimal cost to the association. Community members can take pride in knowing that they made a difference in improving habitat for both humans and wildlife in our community. On occasion, our landscape committee has also hosted informal meet and greet events focused on raking paths and collecting garbage in our common areas. This also helps us with safety, since getting to know your neighbors while building a water harvesting basin is a great way to build community. In addition, we have dedicated landscape volunteers that report and repair leaks rather than waiting for landscapers to address the same on a weekly cadence. Volunteers also monitor our monthly common area water bills, since we can't rely on our property manager to notify us if a meter is reporting high water use, suggesting a leak in our system. Santa Rita also helps us out by chipping Palo Verde clippings, which we reclaim and apply to our water harvesting basins. So all this mulch that's been hanging out here for the last year has created a nice little environment for bugs to help aerate the soil. I can see there's all kinds of activity here. I bet if I come back later this afternoon, now that I've removed all this mulch, all these little bugs will be gone and this will be bone dry. Volunteers also help maintain water harvesting features through basin redevelopment and rock placement, mulching of common areas, flagging problem areas for landscaper follow-through, and we're assisting with our commercial contractors with garbage and scat removal. In closing, one of the best compliments I think our association has ever received was a question that was posed where someone once stated, "Why can't we be more like other HOAs?" And I consider that a compliment based on my experience witnessing the things that we're doing in our community is essentially breaking that degenerative paradigm, that degenerative cycle. Needless to say, breaking that paradigm wouldn't be possible if it weren't for the dedicated volunteers in the community that support this effort. First and foremost, I really got to thank Mary Graff, who has donated hundreds of hours on everything from creating newsletter entries to keeping the community informed, to helping us with our procedural guidance, to just being present and making sure that the community is aware that what we're doing is positive. In addition, it's important to recognize a few of our most active current volunteers, which includes David Wharton, Mark Timmerman, and Siobhan Tice, and also Guy Brunt and David Koenig, who helped with a lot of the features in our community. Finally, my sincerest thanks to our former board president, Ms. Sandra Drain. In addition to supporting our sustainable landscape procedures, she's contributed hundreds, if not thousands of hours to the community on multiple projects. Everything from walking the community with our landscapers to make sure they're adhering to our guidance, to managing the repair of our community sidewalks, to working with Gerald Cody on renewing our community streets, to ensuring safe storage of chemicals in our pool area, to working with dedicated volunteers on getting unsanitary and water-intensive grass replaced with synthetic turf in our pool area, just to name a few. Needless to say, board leadership is critical in realizing sustainable practices, so if you live in Agua Dulce and see her, please thank her for her contributions over the last 3 years. This concludes our 10-year anniversary for these ongoing efforts. Really appreciate those of you who stuck through the whole presentation, and we'll catch you next time.